Now, I think I'm pretty much there now with my team in the Club World Cup fantasy game. So in this video, I'm going to take you through what should be my final draft. All right, first up, I'm going to tell you about my booster strategy and just get that out of the way. I don't really think it's changed since, well, when this game first came out, to be honest. The wild card I'm going to look to use in match day 3. I'm targeting teams that I think will have the best fixtures to kick off the tournament, which probably means they'll be through in their groups come match day 3 and maybe resting some of their players who I will likely own in the game. So I think it makes sense to use that in match day 3, and you can use it to take a few more punts than you might want to as well, because obviously your team gets reset again for the round of 16. The 12th man, I think I'm going to use that in match day 1, and that's purely because I think there's one standout captain during the group stages, and that's Harry Kane of Bayern Munich versus Auckland City in match day 1. And I feel like the match captain is best used when the decision is a little bit trickier in terms of who the best captain is. And I think match day 2 is the best time to use that. 12th man, I'll likely be using that in match day 1. I don't really think there's any more to it, to be honest. The only thing I would say beyond booster strategy is that in most fantasy football games I'm used to, making a transfer beyond your allocation is a -4. So if you need to take a hit, basically, to bring players in. In this game, it's only a -3, which I think is significantly better. Well, obviously, it's -1 point less, but that's actually 25% less hurtful than taking hits in, like, FPL, for example. So for me, I'm of the mind that I might also take hits. So I know it's not necessarily booster strategy related, but it is overall game strategy. And I think in this one, I'd be more open to taking hits as well. All right, so getting into a model then. I've not shown this data before. This data is courtesy of Elevenify. I've used this on, well, all of my Euros fantasy videos, I'm pretty sure, and quite a lot of FPL videos I make as well. It's a really good projection tool. Well, Elevenify, the guys behind it, do a really good job. I'll leave a link to Elevenify in the description below. What we've got here to kick things off is projected goals across the tournament for, well, the top 20 teams, basically. I can't actually remember how many teams are in the tournament. I think it's pretty much all the teams. And I've ranked it, obviously, top to bottom. And you can see here, across the 3 games, Bayern Munich are top. But that's very heavily down to the projected goals they're expected to get in match day 1. In second, we've got Man City, 3.49 and 3.99 in 1 and 2, and then 3 drops off. Real Madrid, they look strong across each of the group stage games. Chelsea, their match day 2 looks a little bit worse than the other 2, but it's still basically 2 projected goals. PSG obviously got that tough fixture match day 1, then 2 and 3 look good. So I'm looking at these fixtures myself, and I'm potentially considering, could I potentially sell some of my Bayern Munich assets if I'm picking them for match day 1? Obviously, you don't know that yet. But could you sell, for example, Bayern Munich assets to move on to PSG? Obviously, PSG have literally just won the Champions League, right? And then you've also got Benfica down there as well, who I think are of interest. Relatively, well, more difficult features in 1 and 2 than they do, 1 and 3 than they do in 2, but that match day 2 fixture looks really good. Juve, they've got a really good game in match day 1 and 2. Flamengo got a good game in match day 1. What else? Inter strong across all 3 games, so are Dortmund. Hopefully that gives you an idea in terms of projected goals as to the teams that you'd want to pick. And then we've got clean sheet odds, and quite honestly, it follows a very similar principle to what we've just seen on the projected goals, right? Because it's based on the quality of fixture. So Bayern Munich, I haven't seen a clean sheet odd as high as Bayern Munich have in match day 1 ever on any fantasy football model, right? They're 83% likely, right, to keep a clean sheet in match day 1. Man City on 65, Inter on 50, Chelsea 55, Juventus 60. Juventus really good as well. Benfica 36, Flamengo 55. And then a match day 2, it's most of those teams again. So Bayern Munich, Chelsea, Inter, Juventus on 67, Dortmund, Madrid, PSG, Atletico, and Benfica on 75. And Boca Juniors have got a 70% chance of keeping a clean sheet in match day 3. You can see the other teams there. So that should give you an idea based on projected goals and team clean sheet odds as to some of the teams you might want to be targeting. All right, a bit more detail then related to specific players. So we've got projected goals for, well, the top players in the game during the group stages. Harry Kane is top. That's largely driven by the match day 1.72 projected goals against Auckland. Haaland is pretty good throughout, apart from match day 3. Mbappe's strong throughout. Guirassy pretty strong throughout. Palmer pretty strong throughout. Pavlidis of Benfica particularly strong in match day 2. So, you know, if you've got, I don't know, maybe Kane to, it's risky, but Kane to Pavlidis, especially if you're, you know, wildcarding in match day 3, could be a play. Yeah, I'm not going to go through detail. You can pause it yourself and see the other top players for projected goals. Then alongside the projected goals, we've got projected assists as well. You know, assists are not worth as many points as goals, so I'm not reading as much into this as I am goals. I'd prefer to target players that I think are going to score goals. But some of the names, I think, Elise and Palmer, I think they're going to do really well, particularly in match day 1. The Arrascaeta, I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce it. He looks pretty good for assists, and also he is the penalty taker for Flamengo, I believe. Who else is in there as well? So you mentioned Benfica assets. Aturklu, I'm not going to butcher his name. A Benfica midfielder, you can see his name there, number 18. He looks pretty good for assists in match day 2. And then you've also got Pavlidis, who looks good for goals in match day 2. So again, looking at, I think this is the team projected goals on this screen. So there is a potential to move on maybe some Bayern Munich assets in match day 1, swap them over to maybe some Benfica or PSG assets in match day 2. Based on these projected goals and, you know, clean sheet odds, that could be a way to play it. One other thing just before we get into the team that I'm pretty keen on is the scouting bonus points. Now, I'm not saying I'm going to pick players that are lower than 5% owned throughout my team, but I do think, particularly on your defenders, it's worth trying to take advantage of this rule where you can. Because, for example, if you've got 2 defenders from the same team, one is over 5% owned and one is less. If they both keep a clean sheet, the one who's less than 5% owned is going to score 2 more points than the defender who is greater, if that makes sense. So unless it's you're picking absolutely premium attacking defenders with great fixtures, you're best off picking defenders or like alternative picks from good teams. So I think of, I don't know, a Kanji of Man City, for example, compared to Ruben Dias, something like that. So what that's led me to is picking this defense. Now, like I said, it's not completely full of differentials, but there's 3 in here who I think should do well for the bonus points. So I've got Di Gregorio, who should be the starting Juventus keeper. If you remember back to the clean sheet odds, Juventus for match day 1 and 2 have some really good clean sheet odds. And at the time of recording this video, he's less than 5% owned. I'm pretty sure there's another goalkeeper that has some ownership in the game as well. And I'd be a little bit concerned come the deadline, Di Gregorio creeps over 5%. So that might be a decision I have to make, and it might mean another video if all that changes. But right now, he's under 5% owned in the game. And I think that's pretty good for, you know, Juventus are pretty good for clean sheet odds, and he's going to get 2 extra points for a clean sheet as things stands. The same applies to Lloyd Kelly. He's, well, going to keep clean sheets. I think he's going to play regularly for Juventus. Should get those 2 bonus points. And Svensson of Dortmund as well. Ryerson appears to be the most popular Dortmund defender. Svensson is under 5% owned as it stands in the game. His numbers are comparable to what Ryerson put up this season for them. I think Svensson only signed in January in his defence. But yeah, I just think it's worth going for those bonus points. So I've picked those 3 players for that reason. Dumfries, Guardiola and Rafael Guerreiro make my team because every time I ever see Dumfries play a game of football, he has a chance or he scores a goal. I think the guy is just supremely attacking. Guardiola for the same reason. I think he's probably going to play that inverted left-back role. And with Man City's first couple of fixtures being really good, can't really say no. And also, there are very limited options I actually like from Man City that I can sort of hang my hat on playing every game. And Guardiola was one of them. I know his ownership is way over 5%, but I think he's going to play every game, and that's the important thing. And we all know how attacking he can be, and I think his attacking upside outweighs those 2 extra points per game. Because one other thing I'm thinking with Man City is they're going to be playing teams that have really low blocks. I mean, every team's going to set up with a low block against Man City, right? Apart from the top teams. And I think one of the ways that you break down a low block is with inverted fullbacks, right? And Guardiola is going to be key to that. I just think he's going to get a fair few attacking returns. And at the moment, I've got Rafael Guerreiro in my team. I'm not hugely confident he's going to start that first fixture against Auckland. So I reserve the right to change that to another Bayern Munich defender. But if he does play, there's a chance he doesn't even play in defence with how many different positions he can adopt, right? But if he does play in their defence, which he probably, on the balance of it, I think he probably does, given it's Auckland City. They don't need to, you know, pick a strong back line. I think he's going to be the most attacking and the best. So that's why I've gone for him. Who else have I not talked? Oh, Armani. I just think he's the best cheap goalkeeper in the game, basically. I saw the Boca Juniors goalkeeper has really good clean sheet odds. He's 4.1 million, has really good clean sheet odds in match day 3. I'm wildcarding match day 3, so I don't need to think about that when picking this team. So with the fact I'm wildcarding in 3, I'm literally just thinking about the next couple of game weeks. And to be honest, I mentioned moving players on to like PSG or Benfica assets, but I think this defence probably doesn't need to change at all and can stay as it is for the first couple of fixtures. All right then, on to the midfield. And as it stands, I've got Diarra Keita of Flamengo, who has put up some absolutely fabulous numbers this season. Played 26 games, scored 12 goals and got 6 assists for them. In previous drafts, I've had Julian Brand in there of Dortmund. But I think with the quality of fixture that the Flamengo have in match day 1, I could well move him on for a Benfica midfielder, for example, in match day 2. He's on penalties. Yeah, I just think he's going to be a better option than Julian Brandt, especially in this game where you can get away with thinking really short term. I've gone for Enzo Fernandez. I think the role he's been adopting for Chelsea this season has been a fairly attacking one. And I think he's also going to chip in with some tackles as well. So I'm hoping for some goals, assists and tackle bonus points from Fernandez. And I think at 6.2 million, he offers really good value for those sorts of different ways of getting returns, if you like. Franco Massantuono of River Plate. So in my last video, I mentioned that it looks like he's going to be signing for Real Madrid and you should be concerned. Well, he has signed for Real Madrid. It certainly looks like he will join Madrid on a 6-year deal. It's been Here We Go by Fabrizio Romano, $45 million. However, River Plate are making a case for him to play during the Club World Cup and then leave in August. So that's changed a little bit from the time where we were talking about him potentially signing for Madrid. So he does look like he's going to be a Madrid player, but I also think there's a good chance that he stays at River Plate for the Club World Cup. And I think, I'll be honest, if I was Real Madrid, it's almost like a mini loan, isn't it? Letting him play the Club World Cup, right? And just giving him some football. Because ultimately, I'm not convinced how much football he would play for them at the Club World Cup as it stands. So I think it's a good decision for both teams, really. I know there's a risk of injury, etc. But, I mean, I carry a risk of injury with any pro footballer, don't you? So anyway, I think on the balance of it, Massantuono is probably going to play the Club World Cup. So I'm going to stick with him as it stands in my team. Unless anything breaks and changes, I'm going to stick with him. Outside of that, I've got Elise. So I did a little comparison. I've showed this about 3 times, I think, on 3 different drafts of all the Bayern Munich midfielders. Musiala looks like he could be injured, so he's going to miss at least part of the tournament. And I'll look at the rest of the Bayern Munich midfielders, and their numbers this season have not been amazing. Whereas Elise, he's absolutely killed it. 17 goals, 7 assists, and he's played the most games. 17 assists, and he's played the most games of all of these midfielders. So I just think he's just by far and away the outstanding Bayern Munich midfielder. No one really comes close. Even, on balance of the ownership, those 2 bonus points, whatever. I don't really care. I think Elise is by far and away the best Bayern Munich midfielder, so I've gone for him. And then Cole Palmer. I know he didn't have the best run at the end of the season for Chelsea, but Chelsea have amongst the best projected goals. They've got a really good group. I expect them to win all 3 of their games. I'm only picking for 2 weeks, and I think Palmer's going to do really well over those 2 weeks. On penalties, free kicks, Chelsea's just absolute talisman. And I'd hope that he plays his sort of favoured position for Chelsea as well. We'll see how that sort of works with Enzo Fernandez wanting and playing a more attacking position in recent games as well. So that's my midfield. And just to round the video off then, my front 3, I've not changed it since my last draft. I've gone for Kane, Haaland and Agi Hauer. He's got another nickname that I keep forgetting as well. I'm just going to scroll on my other screen just so we can get his, see if we can find his nickname. The guy was absolutely incredible for, well, I say incredible. He had a pretty good season for Porto. He's also known as Samu as well. So if you want to find out his season stats for yourself and check him out, do a bit of research. He's also known as Samu. But he's 4.2 million in this game, right? He played 39 games for Porto this season and scored 25 goals. So you've got a striker, probably on penalties, that scored 25 goals this season in the game for 4.2 million. Now, the only thought I have in my mind is that I really like Guirassy of Dortmund as well. I've only got 1 Dortmund player in this team at the moment, and they have a really good group. It's just whether Guirassy, the season he had in tournament football in the Champions League this season was incredible. It's just whether you fancy him over Samu and you want to spend the extra cash. Although for me, I think this is probably the best structure for me. But you might want to max out your strikers and go for Guirassy. That's totally cool, but you'd obviously have to scrimp and save elsewhere in your team. I think Kane and Haaland and obviously Mbappe, who I have in as my 12th man, by the way, purely because I prefer the Man City fixture and Haaland's odds in matchday 2 to what I think of Mbappe's, if that makes sense. I've gone for Mbappe as my 12th man. I'm really scared of the ownership of Mbappe, so I feel like not having him for this match day 1 is really risky. And to be honest, throughout the game is really risky. I'm hoping my max captain in match day 2 covers off not having him. But yeah, I think he's expensive. I can't afford him in this team, so I may as well use my 12th man to pick a player I can't afford, basically, was my logic there. I'm tripled up on Bayern Munich. I couldn't really see another Bayern. I would quadruple up if I could, but I don't really see another Bayern Munich midfielder that I'm like absolutely desperate to get in my team. You know, they don't have another forward alongside Kane, really. So yeah, I've gone for Mbappe, and yeah, well, that's my team. Hopefully you found that useful. Like I said, I think my plan would be to move on some of these Bayern Munich assets, maybe Diarra to some Benfica and PSG players. Maybe get someone like Hakimi in, one of the PSG midfielders for Elise, and then maybe, I've forgotten his name, Turkoglu is the Benfica midfielder, isn't he? I might bring him in for Diarra as well. Yeah, that's pretty much my team and how I'm planning to see out the group stages at least. All right, well, I hope you enjoyed that video. If you did and found it useful, please leave me a like rating. I'm conscious I've made like 4 or 5 draft videos now, but things have moved on and changed as the days have progressed. And I think this video is a bit more comprehensive, right? This is a full view of how I'm going to see out the group stages until at least I play my wild card in match day 3, and then we'll see who gets to the knockout stages, right? You can't make a plan for your team for the knockout stages because you don't know who's there yet. So hopefully that gives you a good idea of where my mind is, where I'm thinking with my team. This is my final draft as it stands, but quite a lot of this draft, well, some of this draft relies on players' ownerships being below 5%. So we're going to have to keep tabs on those. If any of these players, creep over 5%, that could leave me with a bit of an issue to solve and some minor changes to be made, which might mean another video before the deadline. But yeah, if you want to see more Club World content from me, I can assure you there'll be plenty more. You can subscribe to the Golden Goal channel. It should be just there on your screen. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll catch you in my next video.